沧海一声笑，滔滔灭共潮。沧海一声笑，滔滔灭共潮。四海英雄聚今朝，苍天笑，拔剑斩红刀，狼杀淘尽怒百笑。整整70年，他把中华人民奴役，还让这片土地变得满目疮痍。全世界投毒制造各种生化武器，我去，他答应了人类命运共同体。3代爆料，携手占有新天道，振兴我中华同胞，兴起了灭共浪潮。壮志冲云霄，看那国旗飘飘，别鸟铁岭河道，神州阳光普照。江山笑，血雨遥，谁负谁生出一份笑。风萧萧，人向险如潮，盘古开天风潮。3年多的爆料，就是给压死个东方实锤，每天都有一点也不嫌多。以美灭共，以共灭共，还得靠我们战友们行动。电影我中华儿女，共建联邦新中国。黑夜显祖国，照亮东方的天。我们宏伟的火焰，我准备了3世多年，越过了死亡幽谷，踏上了灭共之路。总有太多雄剑不出啊，只能虚度。听风笑，收归正道， 不相聚在今朝。我的梦 The voice save the world City behind the people's time We are running out of time Take down Action Take down the CCP Take down Action Take down the CCP La 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 la他们的恐惧是我们的武器，我们的胜利。谢谢了，兄弟姐妹们，你们健身了吗？行动，行动，行动！中共，你完了 ！Take down the CCP。
For the games you want to play, bring it on and I will fight to the end. Just watch and see. It's all started, everything's begun, and you are over. Cause we're taking down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long. We will end what they do wrong. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. Let's take down the CCP. Let the bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. Let the bullets fly a little longer.
中共，
Let the bullets fly a little
你
longer.
完了！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
中共，你完了！干灭中国共产党这个 CCP， 才能让我们远离恐惧。Take down the CCP。
They try to scare the nation with fabrication, but we see through the lies. We won't fall, we will fight you back. Police corruption with crooked assumption. They ran our lives, but no more. We will win. We will take down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long. We will end what they do wrong. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. Let's take down the CCP. Let the bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. Let the bullets fly a little longer.
站起来吧！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
站起来吧！
Let the bullets fly a little
为
longer.
奴役的人
Let
们
the bullets fly a little longer.
行动！
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
行动！
Let the bullets fly a little
你
longer.
完了
Let the bullets fly a little longer.
！Take down the CCP。
The bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender.
Take down the evil CCP.
Good evening, Fringers. It is Friday, April 9th, 2021. Thank you for joining us and welcome to episode 26 of The Fringe. I'm your host, David Vincent Bob. The Fringe is simultaneously broadcast in English and Chinese on gtv.org, MOS Talk, every Tuesday and Friday night from 7 to 8 p.m. We are honored to have you here with us this evening, and we appreciate your patronage. Please spread the word about our show to all of your friends and family, and subscribe and follow us on gtv.org at MOS Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome tonight's guest who's had a very busy week, same as me. So here to tell you all about that is my Friday night partner, Ada. Welcome back to the show, Ada. Great to see you as always.
Thank you, David, and I'm very happy to be back on the show. It's definitely been an eventful week here on GTV as we have been covering real time on the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission investors protest, which we will be covering for the second half of our show. David and I were deeply involved in demanding the right for our Asian, American, and Chinese investors, not only in D.C., but in New York as well.
That's right. Thanks so much for that, Ada. As Ada stated, it's been a really hectic week for all of us, but it is so well worth it, believe me, especially when it's for a great cause like GTV. We'll get to that later, as Ada said. Now for some breaking news. Taiwan's back in the news again, and they are vowing to fight back against China. And we have a video to support that. Let's play that video now.
China stepped up a show of force around Taiwan on Wednesday, sending more fighter jets into the island's self-defense zone. Taiwan's foreign minister responded by warning it would fight to the end in case of war. The democratic self-governed island, which China claims as its own, has complained of escalating military activity by Beijing in recent months. On Monday, China said an aircraft carrier group was exercising around the island, while the U.S. Navy said it had conducted a, quote, routine transit of the Taiwan Strait on Wednesday. U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price on Wednesday described Washington's commitment to Taiwan as, quote, rock solid.
In support of longstanding U.S. policy, again, as reflected in the Taiwan Relations Act, the United States maintains the capacity to resist any resort to force or other forms of coercion that would jeopardize the security or the social or economic system of the people on Taiwan.
Washington is Taiwan's most important international backer and arms supplier, and it's been pushing Taipei to modernize its military and become a porcupine hard for China to attack. Taiwan's foreign minister Joseph Wu said Taiwan was determined to improve its military capabilities and spend more on defense, and would run war simulations later this month. China, which claims its Taiwan activities are aimed at protecting Chinese sovereignty, did not respond to requests for comment on Wu's remarks.
Well, here they are again, Ada. The Chinese flexing their military muscle, trying to bully everyone around. And here we are back with Taiwan again. And obviously, the U.S. being a big supporter of Taiwan is keeping a very close eye on this. And I'm glad that Taiwan's standing up for their rights and they're fighting back against this because they're making an example out of China. And they're showing them that they're not going to let them bully them around. And I think a lot of other countries need to follow suit with that. That's China's biggest, or the CCP, I want to say. That's their biggest offensive is to be a bully. And that we've seen it, Ada. That's what they do. They've done it continuously with every single aspect of their government with the Chinese Communist Party against other countries. They manipulate, they lie, they steal, and they bully. That's what they do, and that's their platform. That's what they're built upon. I'm very glad to see that Taiwan, again, is standing up to this. And I'm glad to see that the U.S. State Department has a rock-solid commitment to this also. You know, they stated right there that they're going to resist any force against Taiwan. And as it was stated, that Washington is the biggest arms backer for Taiwan. So they're saying, hey, look, we got your back on this one. I certainly hope that this happens in other aspects, which we will talk about later, having Taiwan's back, but also, you know, fighting back against the CCP with the Olympics and all that stuff that we're going to talk about later, not just, you know, defending Taiwan. This could be this could be the stepping stone or the event that catapults us into an all-out decoupling from China. And it seems like Prime Minister Wu is definitely standing strong against the Chinese also. And when I say Chinese, I mean the CCP, not the Chinese people. Again, there is a difference. They're caught in the middle, these innocent people living in China, and we are proof of that with what we've been doing this week. Getting the word out there about the abuses against the people of China that have invested in GTV, but we'll get to that later. So what do you got? Any thoughts on that, Ada?
Yes, for sure. And the CCP is doing what they know best, which is trying to scare Taiwan by using their military powers. However, the CCP's feathers has been ruffled as the U.S. has stated multiple times on multiple platforms, with Taiwan being its own separate country. And obviously that is not what the CCP wants to hear. During the Taiwan elections in the past, people were very, very worried of becoming the second Hong Kong by losing their rights to vote, their rights in their country as citizens of Taiwan. So it's great to see, like you said, David, that the U.S. is backing up Taiwan the way they are, and they are trying to stand in solidarity with Taiwan and the people of Taiwan.
Yeah, it was good to see that when they send something up in the air into their airspace, the CCP, that is, that we had people, you know, we had pilots and our military was up there showing them, hey, we're here, man. Just want to let you know we're in the sea, we're in the South China Sea, and we're up here in the sky too. And Taiwan's doing the same thing. So usually with the CCP, though, it seems like whenever they do start flexing, if you just show them a little bit back, you just show them your cards, you know, just show them what you're playing with, they usually back off. They don't want, that's the thing. They're all talk, no action. They're all about making money. They want to take over the world. We know that. But you need to fight back against them. That's what you have to do to a bully. You got to fight back against them. You don't let them get their way or they're going to walk all over you. And the more that the CCP does things like this, and the more that countries like Taiwan and the U.S. stand up against this, the weaker they look. And I'll tell you one thing, the CCP hates that. They hate having to look like a fool because they tried to flex a muscle and we stepped up to that line and we're right back in their face with it. So we know that for a fact that we can weaken the CCP's desire to continue to act this way by just simply standing up to them. What do you think about that, Ada?
It's very important right now to hit them where it hurts. And financially speaking, that is definitely decoupling with an important country and a strong country like the United States. Financially decoupling from Wall Street, from within, a lot of ties are bound there, especially when it comes to imports and exports. And that's where it's very important for the CCP to hold onto the US. So right now, if we want a reaction out of them, it's important to hit them where their money is.
Yeah, that's right. And we've talked about decoupling several times in the past, and a couple of the subject, a couple of our segments tonight deal with that. Why it's important to decouple. Mostly, I would say the next segment, which is a nice segue for us actually, is another reason, or it can be another way we decouple from them. And it's sorry, I'm having a lighting issue here. Just won't y'all bear with me here. So let's go into the next one. The U.S. Is actually backing away from the idea of boycotting the Olympics in Beijing next year. We've talked about this in past episodes, and what I've said in the past was boycotting the Olympics is essential if you want to start. You can use it as your starting point for your decoupling process, or to continue the process that Donald Trump started. So let's take a look at that video now, Chris. Let's play that one.
Meanwhile, the White House has said that it is not discussing a joint boycott of the Beijing Winter Olympics with other U.S. allies. President Joe Biden's press secretary, Jen Psaki, said that his administration has not discussed and is not discussing any boycott with allies and partners of the Chinese Winter Games. Before the White House's announcement, China had accused the United States of politicizing sports after reports that it would discuss calling for a boycott of Beijing Olympics with its allies. The mass incarceration of more than 1 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang has led the Republican politicians in the United States to call for a boycott of the Olympics. China has rejected the claims and has said that the allegations of genocide by the Chinese administration in Xinjiang are the lie of the century from top to bottom. Now, earlier in the week, U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price had held a press conference on Tuesday. He said that Washington wants to discuss the joint boycott with allies. The statement created quite a stir, and the White House has come up with a clarification that there has been no discussion about a joint boycott with allies. However, that doesn't mean that there will be no discussion in the days ahead. The President Joe Biden's administration has repeatedly kept the door open to boycotting the Olympics without announcing any firm direction. A potential boycott of Beijing Olympics has increasingly become embroiled in U.S. domestic politics, with Republicans seeking to paint Biden as hypocritical and soft on China. The United States led a boycott of the 1980 Moscow Olympics over the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, with the Soviet bloc snubbing the Summer Games in Los Angeles 4 years later in retaliation.
One thing I found interesting about that video was, I don't know if you were reading that, if you're reading the little tickers at the bottom there, though, the last one said China accuses the U.S. of politicizing sports.
I saw that.
That is completely not what's happening. It's so amazing if you catch these little things that the CCP says or posts, or it's a complete lie, and you know it is. There's no when we know for a fact, we've seen the footage. We have aerial footage from outer space from satellites. We have up and close footage of the concentration camps. We have reports. We have live interviews with women that were raped in these camps and forced to have abortions by men that were sterilized in these camps. And we know for a fact that the Uyghurs are going through a mass genocide in the Xinjiang province. I've covered it on almost every show, and I will continue to until action is taken. And the way we get to that is to start off by boycotting the Olympics. If there was any other reason to boycott the Winter Olympics next year in Beijing, this would be the number one reason, Ada. It would be because of what they're doing to their own people, not to mention what they've done to the rest of the world with the lab-created virus in Wuhan. What else do we need to do? I don't even know why Biden would even give this a second thought. It just shows his weakness again. I'm really disappointed in this administration, my country, for not wanting to immediately boycott this. You can't pick and choose what you support and what you don't support, especially if what you don't support is the genocide of people in a country that's going to host the Olympics next year. That is simply unacceptable, Ada. I'd like to certainly get your thoughts on this.
It's definitely, we don't speak lightly when we say our hearts go out to all of the athletes that have prepared tirelessly for these events, especially as big as the Olympics. Some of the athletes, this might be their last ever Olympics game in their whole entire professional career. However, it's not possible for us to ignore exactly what is happening in China, especially with the genocide of the Uyghurs, and it is definitely impossible to ignore the fact that we should not let this slide away and we should not turn a blind side to that issue. And China definitely, like you said, David, is not one to talk when they talk about politicizing sports, as there are literally books written about China and communist China having to the Sovietization of Chinese sports policy and practice. That is something that they have been doing since 1949. So with all of these examples, China is only trying to create a distraction and create a powerful front, almost like how Hitler did when Germany hosted their Olympics when Hitler was in power. So with that all being said, we're getting very close to the Winter Olympics in Beijing. Boycotting might be a very difficult step for the athletes, but we have to let China and the CCP party know that there are consequences to their actions and there are consequences to their ignorance and their choice of ignoring human rights, especially in the Uyghur community.
Yeah, you know what, the if you look at this at face value, though, and you don't boycott the Olympics, Ada, what you're saying to China is, or the CCP, what you're saying to the CCP is it's okay to do this. It's okay that you're doing this to the Uyghurs. It's okay that you created a virus in the lab in Wuhan. It's okay that you bully around everybody else. I don't understand why this is even a discussion, why we're even saying, maybe we won't boycott the Olympics. Why? Here's my question, and I'm keeping this one open-ended. Why are the Olympics even in Beijing next year? That's what I don't understand. How were they ever even considered a country to have the Olympics? A communist country shouldn't even have the right to have the Olympics in their country, period, because of the way they do the things that they do. Their whole ideology is one of takeover, is one of brutal force, is one of ownership. They control everything. How can we even consider having something that's supposed to celebrate the greatest athletes all over the planet in a country that doesn't even take care of its own people and doesn't care about the rest of the world? We know, Ada, the end game for the CCP is to take control of this world. And there's even speculation that they're creating a virus that they want to use to wipe out humanity, that they'll be the only ones to have a vaccine for. And I wouldn't be surprised if that were true. I just don't understand how we can possibly even consider why this was even decided previously, first of all, to have the Olympics there. And secondly, in light of what's going on in Xinjiang and what they've done with this virus, why we aren't boycotting these Olympics and joining with these other countries to do that.
And speaking of boycotting, it's no secret right now that China is boycotting brands like Nike for the refusal of using cotton produced in Xinjiang due to forced labor. However, Nike is actually the sponsorship for all of the Chinese national teams. So it's very interesting, and I would like to see how it plays out that without Nike's sponsorship, how are the teams going to get new uniforms in time? So boycotting also comes both ways, David, in terms of this. And it's definitely going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah, I think that was a big step for Nike. And one thing that I took a note of during this segment was China calling this the lie of the century. That what's happening with the Uyghurs is they're calling the lie of the century. It blows my mind that this country, this government, could call what they're doing to the Uyghurs, what we're accusing, what the rest of the world, Ada, is accusing them of doing to the Uyghurs, the lie of the century. Like it's not really happening. Oh, okay, we'll just ignore that. Oh, well, yeah, you're right. We're lying. Why would we? We have no reason to. We've seen the evidence. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's ridiculous.
It is. It's a violation of human rights on all forms.
Yeah, that's the truth. All right. Well, speaking of that, and again, with the the Chinese Communist Party, as I mentioned, not only their treatment of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang and us wanting to boycott them, or us, well, that we don't want to, but we should. I did mention a little bit about COVID, and that's actually segues into our next segment, and is that the U.S. is beginning studies on COVID-19 vaccine side effects. Really? Just now beginning studies on side effects of a vaccine that's used to heal people of a very deadly virus? You're just now doing studies? Let's play that video.
The U.S. National Institute of Health has said that it has begun a study to look at why some people suffered serious allergic reactions shortly after receiving the Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines. The study will be funded by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. It will enroll nearly about 3,400 adults between the age group of 18 to 69. The goal of this trial is to assess the proportion of participants who have systemic allergic reaction within 90 minutes of getting the jab. The data is expected to be released sometime later this summer. The study comes as a small number of cases of severe allergic reactions have been reported across the United States from these two jabs. It also includes several allergic reactions. For instance, there have been instances of a severe and life-threatening allergic reaction that has been reported once this vaccine has been administered to the patients. Medical experts have said that allergic reactions from vaccines are rare, but they can happen. Earlier in the month of January, the CDC had said that the allergic reactions were occurring at a rate of just about 11.1 per 1 million vaccinations for the Pfizer shot and for about 2.5 per 1 million for the Moderna shot. Kate is still with us now. Kate, this of course is a huge controversy that is playing out in Europe, where the European Medical Agency of course was looking at the allergic reactions caused by AstraZeneca. Now a similar kind of a trial is being undertaken in the United States over the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines.
Yeah, that's right. This is, I guess, a little different in that this is about allergic reactions, albeit them serious. It's not suggesting that they will always lead to death, but certainly it's another example of there being some concerns about these vaccines that have already received emergency use authorization here in America. Both of these vaccines have been taken by millions of Americans, and most of those Americans have been absolutely fine. The National Institutes of Health is just concerned that people who already have allergies could find themselves suffering a severe allergic reaction to this, and they're suggesting that people who have got allergies wait for around 30 minutes after they've had their vaccination, just while they're still in the medical centre, in case there is a sudden allergic reaction to it. So yes, they've decided that it's necessary to carry out a study into this to try to work out why it is, what it is that is causing these reactions in certain people, but there is certainly not enough concern to take these drugs off the market. Just about every medical expert will say that it is much, much better and far less riskier to be vaccinated against COVID-19. That is the best bet, and it is worth the risk of an allergic reaction to get that vaccination and get the protection against this virus.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Kate Fisher, for joining us and getting us all those insights.
Okay, Ada, so let's dig into this one a little bit. I'm really surprised that they are just now doing studies on allergic reactions. I guess before they would use, I guess you can't really use a human being as a test subject. Maybe they have in the past. I know they use animals and animals with the same DNA structure, like monkeys and things like that. But It's unfortunate, but what I see from this is that there's some reason to be feeling a little bit optimistic about it. There's the allergic reactions are like what was it, like a couple 100,000 or thousands and a millions, 100 millions. I missed the numbers there exactly. Sorry, I didn't jot those down, but it just didn't seem that significant to me, because when you're talking about the quantity of people that have gotten this vaccine and the allergic reactions, that happens with the regular flu shot. There's so many tangibles and variants that are involved when you're talking about allergic reactions.
Yes.
A person's age, their chemical makeup, what medicines they're taking right now, have they had a shot before, how their body reacts to different things. I mean, if you have an egg allergy, you can't get the flu shot because it has that in it. It has the egg white in it. So there's so many different things that could cause an allergic reaction. And though that can happen, it seems like it's very minimal right now, and that's very an optimistic thing, for people, especially those who are getting shot, to hear. We don't want to scare people, and I've heard, not myself, I've heard another report. There was infections, I think it was in Italy, that were dropping from thousands of infections a day to just 10 a day after the vaccinations sweep went through. So there is some good to it. I'm glad to hear that. Seriously, we want this vaccine to work. We want to thank President Trump for pushing this thing through for us. Of course, the Biden administration is taking all the trying to take all the glory of it and the award for doing it, and taking all the making it theirs. They created this and they pushed this through, and none of this would have happened if it wasn't for Donald Trump, and we'll never take that away from him. This was his baby, and he's the one that made this happen. Again, though, this still doesn't fully convince me, just being honest here as a person, just my honest opinion. I don't have to share this, but I will. And it's that I won't get the shot. Not right now. I don't feel confident enough yet. And the reason is, Ada, because there's been so much with everything else in this, along with this virus. We have Dr. Fauci changing his mind every single day about things. I don't know who to believe. Let me put it that way. There's competition between the pharmaceuticals, and they're all making billions of dollars off of this. They don't care. But that's kind of where I stand with that right now. And there's more data to be released this summer. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, Ada. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
With the vaccine, it was very groundbreaking, as it only took 9 months to develop. And right now, there are so many more sites, and a lot of people are getting vaccinated, especially those who are in critical condition or just conditions and age groups that are more prone to COVID-19, such as elderly people. And with that, it's great that a lot more people have access to the vaccinations right now. And great for our Fringers who has been vaccinated already to hear that there has been no reports of death as a side effect, which is very crucial. And we also know that there are so many new strands of COVID-19 and coronavirus that is circling around the globe right now. But we also have seen Dr. Yan's reports, especially her latest one, her third report, of the creation of the virus that was created in the lab in Wuhan, the P4 lab of virology. Very early on during the pandemic, we already saw that CCP officials, especially those higher up, have stopped wearing masks when the rest of the country in China was still under great attack of the virus. That leads us to suspect, obviously, if they already have a vaccination or if they already have a cure for coronavirus much earlier than we suspected and much earlier than the US even developed their own. And with that being said, it's so much more important to investigate into the creation of the virus even before. It's great that we're having people vaccinated, but it's also just as important to have the lab thoroughly investigated so that we know the exact strand of DNA of the virus to create something that is more compatible and 100%, even though our flu shots, like you said, David, aren't even 100%, and people still have allergic reactions to things that has been along as long as the flu shots. However, it's just as important to investigate the creation of the virus, especially since it was a lab-created virus. And we are not advising anything here on the Fringe, whether to get the shot or the vaccination or not. This is completely your own free will, but it's very important to hold the CCP accountable when we know they have created this virus.
Yeah, that's the thing. We wouldn't even be here right now talking about this. Well, we'd be here, but we wouldn't be talking about the virus if it wasn't for the CCP creating this in a lab in Wuhan, China, as we know. And we'll repeat that over and over until that's investigated. Oh my God, that's still going on. Okay, so let's get into. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ada. I'm sorry. What was that?
I'm just saying that's a great segue into our second topic when it comes to investigations as well.
Yeah, so we're going to go into the final segment here, and it's the UK. I spoke about this a few episodes ago. Is that the UK opened its doors with a welcome package for fleeing citizens of Hong Kong. We have an update on that, and I'd like to play that video now, please, Chris.
Britain has pledged support for people from Hong Kong looking to resettle in the UK to the tune of $59 million. As part of a wider effort to let millions of Hong Kongers into Britain after China imposed new security laws in its former colony. The UK said Thursday the money will mostly go to programs for English language support and housing, and efforts to help those from Hong Kong find jobs. Since January, thousands of Hong Kong residents have been able to apply for special 5-year visas and eventually become UK citizens. With the new offer, Britain plans to launch a dozen welcome hubs around the UK to help with registering for healthcare, schools, and provide advice for setting up businesses there. Britain says it is fulfilling a historic and moral commitment to the people of Hong Kong, and that China's security laws are being used to silence dissent. Ministers say the visa program is a way of honoring their side of the deal to hand Hong Kong back to Beijing in 1997. China has reacted angrily to the UK's efforts and have said that the West's views are clouded by misinformation and imperialism. So far, 27,000 people applied for the visa scheme through March, and the UK expects 300,000 people to apply over the next 5 years.
So, Ada, the CCP claims misinformation. That's what they're saying. They're very mad at the UK for opening the doors to the Hong Kongers who don't want to be there because they don't want to be, under the restrictions and under the tyranny of the Chinese Communist Party anymore. They know what's happening. They can see that here. They're going back against that deal that they had set up with them previously. I think it's such an irony that the CCP would claim that it's misinformation. Oh, that's not really happening. And the rest of the world, do they really, we talk about this almost every segment. We've talked about it tonight. Do they really think we're going to continue to believe these lies? They are doing whatever they want. They say they are the complete double standard government. They say one thing and they do the exact opposite. And we see them doing it. It's not like they're covertly doing it. They are claiming misinformation that they're not doing what they're saying that they're doing to Hong Kong. It's amazing to me that they continue this narrative of straight up lying to your face. We talked about this before, and it's a tragedy. We showed clips of these Chinese students and just regular people on the streets in Hong Kong saying whether or not they were going to stay there, knowing that the CCP was going to move in and take over again. And they unfortunately possibly are giving up the fight, which is very tragic to me. I understand it, though, Ada. They don't want to stay there and be killed by the CCP or be ruled by them. I think what the UK is doing, though, is amazing. That they're opening the doors to these Hong Kongers to have a safe haven to go to. They can only make the UK better, as far as I'm concerned. They're great people that live in Hong Kong. And again, it's such a tragedy that they're forced to leave their country. There are some staying to fight, but it's unfortunate that this is happening. And I want to just preface this again, or do a post to this, to the fact that I remember clearly the virus coming out right about the time that Hong Kong was starting to stand up against China, against the CCP, and they were in the streets and they were making a difference, and they had the CCP reeling from that, from those protests, and they saw that the action that the Hong Kong people were taking was strong, and then that virus came out. A little suspicious to me, Ada. What do you think about all that?
I mean, here we don't believe in conspiracies, but then we also don't believe in coincidences that are that close together, especially when the Hong Kong people were really making a difference with their peaceful protests, especially those Hong Kong students on the streets, raising their voices and demanding for their freedom. And as we know, Hong Kong was a dependent territory of the British Empire until 1997. So it's really amazing to see the UK opening its doors again to Hong Kong and those that were robbed of their rights as democratic citizens. And with that being said, it's also so heartbreaking to see people leaving Hong Kong. But it's definitely no doubt that they're doing that because their rights are being robbed from them, as we see from the example of the 47 democratic detainees who are still waiting for their trial and still seeking for their freedom just for quote-unquote collusion under CCP standards. David?
Yeah, let's keep an eye on this one. It's very important that we see what's going on here with Hong Kong, and again, it's the CCP bullying their way through whatever country they want to, whatever nation they want to, using their ideologies to force upon people, and they got to be stopped. And we won't stop broadcasting and talking about it until the CCP is completely eradicated. So why don't you go ahead? We're about to hit the second half of the show here, Ada. Why don't you take us right into that and tell us what's going on with the SEC?
Right, and not only that, it's actually important to note that when the Hong Kong protest was going on, GTV's first topic that we covered here on this new media platform was the Hong Kong protest and helping those people on the streets of Hong Kong find a voice and find a platform where it's non-biased and completely safe, and that was GTV. However, GTV is the one that is under attack right now. With the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, it has a three-part mission that it is not reaching right now, David. The three-part mission is actually to protect its investors, maintain a fair, orderly, and efficient market, and facilitate capital formation. That is the goal of the SEC ever since it was formed in 1934 after the Great Depression, to prevent any tragic events such as the Great Depression from happening again. And the SEC is the one that is refusing all of our investors from investing in the media platform and the free speech platform, which is GTV. David, I believe you were also there in DC when the protests of the investors were going on. How did you feel about that, or should we just roll the clip first?
Yeah, let's look at that clip and then we'll talk. Definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prince, and thank you so much, Bill. I understand all of our investors' pain that they're suffering through, especially as small investors. We see a lot of discrimination in the nation right now, and we especially see that towards Asian Americans, which is something that SEC has proven that they have been doing as well. So as the fight for justice goes on, we believe that there must be things that are being said, there must be investigations that are carried forward. So what is your desired result from the protest today and the ongoing protest?
Sorry, Ada, can you repeat?
Yeah, Ada asked what's our desired result. So we want there to be a transparent, external, independent investigation into the SEC's conduct. We want to find out exactly how and why the SEC leaked our information to the Chinese Communist Party. And we want to hold those accountable for their actions against our investors, and we want to be compensated for the loss resulting from the SEC's unfair and potentially criminal investigation of us.
And also, like, we're gonna protest for the future investor, because right now, everybody's facing the same problem. Like, we're as a normal people, like the deplorable, we cannot just do what we want. Like, you see, like on GTV, all the investors cannot like follow the rules they created. Like, we're gonna beat it, and we're gonna make it like a fair, and we're gonna make it transparency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you both so much. And we do believe that transparency is the key here. For our audience who are watching right now, we also believe that small investors who are working very hard to put their money into somewhere and invest their money into a place where they deem safe is very difficult for them. And especially to have that investment be deferred and refunded must be a very crushing moment and a very crushing situation that they do face right now. So
exactly.
Justice.
If the SEC truly wants, if the SEC was doing its job, why was no one held accountable for the 2008 financial crisis? If the SEC was doing its job, why are all of these Chinese companies still listed on U.S. stock exchange? If the SEC is doing its job, why doesn't the SEC go after Nike for using slave labor in Xinjiang? If the SEC was doing its job, why was it investigating GTV in the first place? We're the first and only platform that consistently exposes the evil of the Chinese Communist Party. And if you are against that, then you are as evil as the Chinese Communist Party. You're an accomplice in genocide, an accomplice in the biggest human rights abuses regime ever existed in human history.
That was a great interview. Good job there, Ada. And you know, something that the Prince said right there that really stood out to me, and the kid's a brilliant kid, believe me, he is. If you spend any time with him, you would know that, is how he talked about how why aren't these other companies from this, you know, that the CCP backs and supports, these Chinese companies that are in the stock market being investigated, and GTV is being investigated. And really all he does is leave you with the only answer that could possibly be the correct answer, and it is that the SEC is in bed with the CCP. There's a lot of money involved when it comes to stock markets, and it would, and you know, this goes so deep, and there's so many layers to it. And you and I, Ada, have been part of this now for the entire week. I was in DC, and I moved on to another location, talking about this. I've been interviewed several times. You interviewed me. I think we're going to show that shortly here.
Yes, we are.
Right. And you know, the Prince made some really, really good points there. And back to my original statement was that the answer is right there in front of us. And the only answer has to be is that there's some corruption going on here. We need to get to the bottom of it. We need to find out why this company that, well, we know why, because the CCP hates us and they're spreading lies and propagandas about us, why this company, this American company, can't get into the stock market, yet they have Alibaba, Tencent, and any other Chinese company that is, you know, controlled by the CCP is doing whatever it wants on Wall Street. The decoupling process, one of the big things involved with that is delisting Chinese companies from the stock market, and that is a huge step also. So we shouldn't even be having this conversation either. I mean, the more we talk about these things, the more it becomes quite clear and apparent that what needs to happen is we need to decouple from China. We could survive on our own. We do not need China as a trade partner. We do not need them involved in our lives, as I consider it, and unwantingly involved in our lives. I'd rather have a relationship with a China that's run by a democratic or a free government than the one that's run by the CCP. We want to be friends with China. We want to have trade with them. We don't want to decouple from them, but we must do that, and we must cut off the ties with them until that CCP is taken down, until the Chinese Communist Party is completely eradicated. Because while they're here and while they're still on this planet, they're going to keep doing what they're doing until you stop them from doing what they're doing. And this is a really, really big deal right here. I hope that this certainly, and I've said this before on interviews during this week with the SEC, that I hope at some point this goes national and they are held accountable for what is happening and what is occurring with the SEC and GTV media.
And it's no secret that the Chinese market is a huge market, and it takes up a huge percentage of the market as well. So with China's BGY efforts, we know that Wall Street is deeply rooted and also in bed with the CCP. However, with what the SEC is doing, it is not only discriminating Asian American investors who are investing their hard-earned money, mostly grassroots, investing their hard-earned money into a company they not only believe has the potential to grow, but that they believe holds their future as well. As we are the first platform to be spreading so much truth and so many factual evidence. Since early January of 2020, we spread the news of how the coronavirus can transmit between people, and that was with our heroine, Dr. Li Mingyang. And since then, we have been spreading nothing but the truth. However, with the ongoing investigation and accusations, blank accusations, might I add, of GTV, the SEC has never given a statement of a problem with with GTV or an issue why we have not been passed, which makes it difficult for GTV to prosper and grow. And this is something that we are demanding from them, and all of the investors in GTV are demanding from the SEC, and that is transparency. Apart from that, the investors also came up with 4 main demands, and not one less. They demand the SEC to, 1, immediately disclose all communications with the CCP. 2, wholly compensate GTV investors' loss. 3, immediately stop collusion with the CCP and the persecution of GTV investors. And 4, immediately stop bureaucratic malfeasance and meet us in court. These are the 4 demands, David, that the investors of GTV are demanding from SEC at the moment. And these demands should be met, as any investors deserve the right of knowing what is going on behind these closed doors.
Yeah, that's right, Ada. And they're pretty simple demands. You know, we want as investors, we want to be compensated for the losses, and we want to be listed on the stock market. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but there definitely needs to be accountability paid by those who have infiltrated. And something else about this that really bothers me, and it's that you read earlier the 3-part mission of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. And the first line of that is to protect investors. And they are doing the exact opposite of that. Because of this malfeasance that's going on, they are dragging this thing out. And while they're dragging this thing out, people in China's names are being exposed. People in China that have investments in GTV, and they're disappearing. They're being thrown in jail. And some of them are being murdered, and it's a complete irresponsibility, and it's a tragedy that this is happening because people just want a platform that they can listen to be able to be told the truth. And that's what we represent here at the Fringe: truth, integrity, and commitment, which is what we always try to bring to the table every single week, or we do bring to the table. And it's all that these people want in China. They know that their government's lying to them. They need to get the truth, and this is the only way that they can get it. And the CCP knows that. And that's exactly why they're spreading rumors and lies about GTV media so they can't be listed on the stock market, and so they can try to shut us down. But guess what? That's not going to happen, because we are so much more powerful than that. And I urge the SEC to watch GTV and see what we're talking about and what we're doing. Right now, I think, though, you have another video. Is that right, Ada?
Yes, we do. We have another video, and I believe it's a video of me interviewing you, David, when you were in TV.
Ah, the irony. Let's check it out.
So how is it there at the Capitol? You're in the center of it all right now.
Yeah, this is well, to be honest, it's a little quiet right now. Phil and I were going over a few things. We're like making up some new chants that we're going to use later. So just coming up with some ideas to get the crowd going again. But I think there's a lot of people here just kind of introspectively thinking about things like I am. Just what's next. We don't know what's really going to happen. We do want the SEC to be investigated. We need an internal investigation done.
Yes,
to figure out what's going on here. We have solid proof that names have been given to the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, from the SEC, and those people are disappearing and dying in China that have invested in GTV. So this is a very, very big corrupt scandal that's going on right now. And we were actually just talking, Phil and I, a little bit about what's going to happen next. What do we do next? I think absolutely the investigation needs to take place. Also, I think that we need to get this out to a bigger news media. To me, as an American, this is huge news right now. And we're kind of all down in this little cul-de-sac here in front of the Securities and Exchange Commission. We need to be out in front of the White House or the Capitol telling the president, telling the U.S. Senate about what's going on here. This is a big deal. Hopefully this will break soon. I don't understand why, we're making our, this is the grassroots movement of for GTV here, being here for this. And I think it'll get bigger as Miles shares it and Lou Da talks about it. And I talk about it on my show. Obviously it's going to be, it's probably going to be the topic of my show tomorrow. I hope. We're definitely, Prince is going to be a guest tomorrow. We're going to talk about it. So, but people need to know about this. It's very important for people to know how the CCP is directly involved with the CCP, or how the SEC is involved with the CCP.
Yeah. And this is huge news, especially right now. We're all talking big talks about human rights. We're talking about defending Asian Americans, talking about leaders in Xinjiang province in China. Yet this is something we're not talking about, but it's just as big, and it's as devastating for the Chinese people who are in China right now, putting their lives in danger, investing into GTV.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And if anybody out there doesn't know anything about the CCP, they're about to find out. And I think as time goes on more and more, we covered on the show, Ada, we talk about things that people aren't talking about yet. And with the hopes that it'll catch fire and spread all over America like we wanted to. That's the point of the Fringe, is to get it out there to our English-speaking, not only Chinese brothers and sisters, but American brothers and sisters out there that want to get the word out about what's really going on in communist China. And that's the problem. So that's what we're here to do. And that's what my hope is, that, if that's what drives you, then I think in the end, we're going to end up winning, because it's just a matter of time, being patient, getting the word out there, and doing things like this with all these great people that want to spread the word about what's going on that other people don't know about or aren't privy to. So that's what we're here to do for them.
David, I must say it was very impressive and very inspiring that you were standing outside with our brothers investors of Asian American descent and protecting their rights. It was very inspiring, David.
Yeah, it's always good to represent. I really enjoy doing this. And, I'm an investor in GTV. I'm a host on this show. It's funny watching myself plug my own show, and then I'm on the show talking about plugging my own show. It's some weird, kind of unusual, but we love what we do. I love this. I love GTV. I think it's an amazing platform. And I said this before, too. I'm 50 years old. I've never invested in anything in my life. And I invested in GTV. So that should tell you something as an American citizen, where a lot of people do rely on the stock market and investing and things like that. Again, I've never done anything like this until I ran across this platform, and I believe in it. I think it's an amazing platform. Again, we just bring the truth to people that are otherwise hidden away from the truth. And that's why the CCP does not like GTV. They hate GTV because they hate being exposed. And the more we do it, the more they hate us. And they'll do anything they can to add a bad, to make us look bad. And that's the sad part about it, is the SEC can't see through that. All you have to do is watch GTV and understand that that's what we're doing. And it's not like we're doing it because, we just don't like this group of people, so we'll talk bad about them. No, what the CCP does week in, week out, day in, day out, hour in, hour out, minute in, minute out, second in, second out, is corrupt government, is lying, is stealing, is bullying, and we are exposing that. And that's why they are doing what they're doing, to reciprocate us and to try to hold us down. But guess what? That's not going to happen, because we're going to stay where we are. We're not going anywhere. The Chinese people hunger for this channel, or hunger for this platform. They love GTV media. They love what we offer to them. They know that we are the only platform that they can go to and hear what's really going on with us and with the rest of the world, because they know they're not going to get it through the restrictions that are laid on them by the Communist Chinese Party.
And we're also not accusing the whole entire SEC of colluding with the CCP. However, we are trying to say that there are certain members in the SEC that is colluding, and that's why we urge the federal government to invest in how to conduct an investigation internally within the SEC to find those people who are responsible for so many deaths of innocent lives inside of China as well. And we're not accusing of the whole entire organization, of course not. It's certain people that have been BGY'd by the CCP. And it's just so important, not only for the investors, but also for SEC itself to find those who are working against them.
Yeah, and these protesters, I'll tell you what, I got to take my hat off to them. I really don't do a lot of it because I'm always busy doing this, but I've had the opportunity to be out there with these people. I've done a little bit of it before, but I'll tell you what, going from the blazing hot sun in Washington, D.C. to the ice cold, frigid air where I'm at now, it's quite a change. I miss the sun. I was really loving, getting a little sun out there and doing our thing and representing, and now I'm freezing. And these people really, they do this under any condition. It doesn't matter what the weather is. They're out there to show how much they love and believe in something. And, obviously this protesting like this, it happens all the time, all over the world. There are people that give their lives for it. And it's a very dangerous, if you could call it an occupation, it's a very dangerous place to be at times. There's people out there that don't like us because they don't believe. They have the opposite, and they're spies, basically. They have the opposite feelings of what we have, of what we believe in. And we have to just be able to deal with that every single day. So this goes a lot deeper than some people that just want to be justified with their investments. It's about a movement of people that want the freedom from tyranny. Chinese people don't come here from China because they love living under the tyranny of the CCP. They want to be free. They want to live in America. And that's the most important thing. And if I could, just reiterate what I always say about my Chinese brothers and sisters here in America, listen to them. Listen to what they say. If they tell you that we're headed down the wrong path, we need to change that. And I had a great conversation with a gentleman on the street who saw the way this country's headed also. He was a Republican, and he saw the things that were going on, and he really believed that I explained to him what our cause was and what we're doing, and he had a lot of input. We talked for a good 20 or 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing, Ada. This has gotten really good reception from people that walk by and kind of want to know what we're about. And, we've had people stop for not hours at a time, but for very long periods of time to talk to us and say they think that what we're doing is great. And it's what the Chinese come here for. This is the coolest thing about this, is that they come here because they want to be able to speak out against injustice, and they can't do that in China. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. That's what's happening right now. There's injustice happening to Asian Americans, to Americans that are investors in GTV, and they have the right to stand in front of a building and scream at them and tell them they want justice. If you tried to do that in China, you might as well just pick a gravesite, because that's the end of you for doing that. And you know that, Ada, as well as I do. And that's one more thing I want to touch on too. Segues into my next point here, is that one thing that our government's trying to do right now is really focus on the hate against Asian Americans. And the biggest irony of that is that the hatred that's going on is not just against Chinese living in America or Asians living in America. It's against Asians that are investing in a company that's an American-based company. If you're going to support Chinese in America as a U.S. government, you need to support all aspects. You need to see that there's some definite hatred, basically, against Chinese Americans going on here with the SEC. It's very divisive what they're doing, and it's very it's disheartening, and it's to me it's an embarrassment, and as an American, to see this happening. This government being so double standardish when it's coming to human rights, and that's completely unacceptable.
Exactly. And right next to the SEC headquarters in DC, in Union Station, there is a sign on there that plays Stop Asian Hate. Yet what we see with the SEC right now is that they are discriminating against Asian American and Chinese investors. And that is something that our investors do not deserve at all. These are conservative investors who have been saving a lot of the money for most of their lives. And they're not only investing in a company that has potential, but as my co-host from Monday, Faith Knight, said, they're also investing in a future where their kids can roam freely, can speak freely, and don't have to live in constant fear under the CCP. And here we always stress on the Fringe that there is a huge difference between the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, and Chinese Americans or Chinese people, 老百姓 in general. So the difference is that the CCP is completely corrupt. They are an organization and a regime that do not go under any rule or law and do not follow anything except their own free will. And they have been ignoring all of human rights, which we have seen so many examples of. This is why GTV is a platform that keeps talking about them and exposing all of the things that they are doing within China and all around the world right now. And this is also why all of our investors are so angry and are standing outside in whatever weather condition to defend their own rights as investors and as Chinese people.
Yep, that's right, Ada, and I couldn't think of a better way to close it right there than that. And I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I'll be back out there again tomorrow on the front lines. I've had people on our team say, hey, thanks, David, for going out there and, being on the front lines with everybody. To me, it's worth it. If you believe in something, you'll do whatever it takes to get the answer that you're looking for. No matter how long it takes, I'll be out there. And I love my Chinese brothers and sisters, and I just love this cause. I love GTV, and I'll do anything I can to keep this going and to spread the word and to give the Chinese people, again, that information, the China mainland, the information that they starve for, that they're deprived of, and also to spread the word to my American brothers and sisters who pretty much have no idea what's going on until I tell them. So it's a great cause, and I'll always be there for it. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening, again, on The Fringe. We are on every Tuesday and Friday live from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on gtv.org at MOS Talk.
And if you want to learn more about the SEC protest, there is going to be more broadcasts on gtv.org from the Sunday, as well as every single day right now. And this will be going on until the end of the month. So please stay tuned on GTV.
That's right, Ada. Yeah, check us out, and we'll be happy to see you guys then, and hopefully you'll be tuning in and watching. The protests have had some amazing turnouts. I think the show that you hosted, Ada, had over 100,000 people watching it. Yeah. There was a Chinese feed that had 2.1 million, maybe even more, maybe 3 million. It was an amazing. There's an amazing number of people watching this, and they know what's going on. So again, I want to thank everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate your patronage. I want to wish everyone a very blessed weekend. Have a great time with your families. Hopefully the weather gets a little warmer where I'm at, and everybody can enjoy that. And I want to say God bless you to you and your families. Be safe, be free. Have a great evening and a beautiful weekend. God bless.
Good night.
这碗酒竟带有共匪灭在咱的手，好酒。喝了咱的酒啊，看破中共假恶丑。喝了咱的酒啊，咱的心爱的自由。喝了咱的酒啊，心头山河一声吼。喝了咱的酒啊，不灭恶党誓不休。春天一呀举酒中，真心的共跟我走。好酒啊，好酒啊，好酒！几十年前共匪团的战力，如今依旧撕裂在中华大地。管天管地管空气，中间还管着你的生殖器。老百姓们活得不如猪狗，人民的财富被他们统统卷走。传统文化全都化为乌有，多少爷们你们难道还没受够？这帮孙子天天在搞双休，这封你的口把你思想左右，让不停的眼泪不停的流，和谐小康社会我去你个头！喝了咱的酒啊，看破中共假恶丑。喝了咱的酒啊，咱的心爱的自由。喝了咱的酒啊，心头山河一声吼。喝了咱的酒啊，不灭恶党誓不休。春天一呀举酒中，真心的共跟我走。好酒啊，好酒啊，好酒！正义将啤酒交到你的手，天南地北从此与我便是战友。我管城市走肉，抗争不分先后，传播天下不管黑夜白昼。干了这碗酒，豪气涌上心头，死的未来是我战斗的理由。舍去爱恨情仇，不敢去抛在脑后，为自由灭中共，不言不休。报了革命这碗酒，敬天，敬地，敬战友，新中国联邦人永不为奴，跟我走！ 先阳谷先大仙，咱走走看。